Miyamoto Musashi was born in 1584 during Japan's late Sengoku period, an era defined by constant civil war, roaming warriors, and duels often settled by death. Combat was not a profession at the time but a way of survival, and Musashi grew up inside this reality. Physically, he was large for his era, standing close to 180 centimeters tall, and was known for his rough, unkempt appearance, which contrasted sharply with the refined image of most samurai. Musashi killed his first opponent at the age of 13 using a wooden staff. Instead of serving a single lord, he spent decades traveling across Japan, actively seeking out skilled fighters and challenging them to duels. Through these encounters, he developed an unorthodox fighting style that rejected rigid tradition. He frequently changed weapons mid-fight and attacked from unexpected angles, prioritizing timing and psychological pressure over formal technique. Over time, Musashi created Niten Ichi Ryu, a two-sword system that used both the long sword and short sword simultaneously. This approach overwhelmed traditional samurai techniques, which typically relied on a single blade. His most famous duel was against Sasaki Kojiro, master of the swallow cut. Musashi arrived late, carved a wooden sword from a boat oar, positioned the sun behind him, and struck first, ending the duel within seconds. He retired undefeated, with over 60 confirmed duel victories. Simo Häyhä. Born in 1905 in rural Finland, Häyhä grew up hunting through dense forests and deep snow, where patience and silence mattered more than strength. He was small, around 160 centimeters, but perfectly adapted to freezing conditions that most soldiers couldn't endure. When the Winter War began in 1939, he joined the Finnish army as a sniper. Häyhä rejected the standard approach. He refused to use a scope, knowing the slightest reflection could expose his position. Instead, he relied on iron sights, making precise shots at distances of 150 to 400 meters. In temperatures dropping below -40 degrees Celsius, he adapted his environment. He packed snow in front of his rifle to reduce muzzle flash and recoil disturbance. He kept snow in his mouth to stop his breath from forming visible vapor. Soviet soldiers never saw him. Patrols moved through the forest and disappeared without warning. The Red Army responded with counter-snipers, attack squads, and artillery strikes aimed at entire sections of forest just to eliminate one man. Häyhä survived all of it. Day after day, he returned to position, increasing his count. In just over 100 days of war, he recorded more than 500 confirmed kills. No scopes, no spotlight, just precision, discipline, and complete control of his environment. To the Soviets, he wasn't just a sniper. He was something they couldn't find and couldn't stop. Alvin C. York. Born in 1887 in rural Tennessee, Alvin York grew up hunting in thick forests, developing patience, accuracy, and absolute control under pressure. He wasn't trained as a soldier in the traditional sense, but his ability with a rifle made him one of the most dangerous men on the battlefield. In 1918, during the Meuse Argonne offensive, York was part of a 17-man unit sent to eliminate German machine gun positions hidden deep in the forest. As they moved forward, multiple German MG-08s opened fire from elevated ground. 9 men were killed instantly. The rest were pinned down with no clear way forward. York moved alone, using terrain, trees, and natural cover. He flanked the machine gun nests from the side. Suddenly, 6 German soldiers charged him with bayonets. York switched to his M1911 pistol and fired in sequence, dropping each man from closest to farthest so none realized what was happening behind them. He returned to his rifle and continued picking off machine gun crews with controlled, precise shots. One by one, the guns fell silent. A German officer stood and called for surrender. York held his aim steady as over 100 soldiers laid down their weapons. By the end, he had killed over 20 enemy soldiers, captured 132, and neutralized an entire defensive position alone. One man changed the outcome of the fight. Khanom Tom lived during the 18th century, when the Kingdom of Siam was locked in constant war with Burma. Combat at the time wasn't sport. It was survival. When weapons were lost or broken, fighters relied on Muay Boran, a brutal system built for close-range destruction, using fists, elbows, knees, and clinch control. After the fall of Ayutthaya in 1767, Khanom Tom was captured and taken to Burma. During a royal festival, the Burmese king wanted to test the strength of Siamese fighters. Khanom Tom was chosen to represent them. Before the fight began, he performed the Wai Kru ritual. The Burmese saw it as something unfamiliar, almost ritualistic, possibly even supernatural. Then the fight started. His first opponent was overwhelmed almost instantly. Khanom Tom controlled distance, broke balance in the clinch, and delivered sharp, precise strikes the Burmese had never encountered. The king, shocked, immediately called for another challenger. Then another, and another. Without rest, Khanom Tom fought multiple elite Burmese fighters in succession. Each time he adapted, maintaining pressure, controlling positioning, and finishing decisively. By the end, he had defeated 9 opponents consecutively. The Burmese king granted him freedom on the spot, not just impressed, but convinced. Khanom Tom didn't just win fights that day, he proved the superiority of an entire fighting system. Marcus Cassius Scaeva served as a centurion under Julius Caesar during the Roman civil wars, a period defined by massive armies and brutal engagements. His defining moment came in 48 BCE at the Battle of Dyrrhachium, where Caesar's forces were outnumbered and struggling to hold their positions. Scaeva was stationed at a small fortified outpost with a narrow entrance, barely wide enough for a few men at a time. When Pompey's forces launched a full assault, hundreds of soldiers surged toward that single breach. The Roman line around him collapsed. Men were killed, others forced back. The position should have fallen. Scaeva stayed. He planted himself directly in the gap, turning the entrance into a choke point. Arrows rained down, slamming into his shield again and again, until it was covered with over 200 embedded shafts. Still, he held. Then one arrow pierced through his eye socket, blinding him instantly. He didn't retreat. Fighting at close range with his gladius, Scaeva cut down every soldier who forced their way through, the entrance filled with bodies as he maintained the position alone, buying time for Roman forces to regroup and counterattack. The line held because he refused to move. After the battle, Caesar personally rewarded him, declaring Scaeva worth an entire cohort. One man stood where an army should have broken. Jebe was born a common steppe warrior named Zurgadai, raised in the harsh environment of the Mongolian plains, where survival depended on speed, accuracy, and instinct. His life changed during a battle against Genghis Khan, when he fired an arrow that struck the future conqueror in the neck. After being captured, he didn't hide. He admitted it. Instead of executing him, Genghis Khan saw something rare: precision and courage under pressure. He spared him, renamed him Jebe, meaning arrow, and brought him into his army. Jebe quickly rose through the ranks, becoming one of the most aggressive and effective commanders in the Mongol forces. He fought at the very front of charges, mastering mounted archery at full speed. Standing in the stirrups while his horse sprinted, he fired arrows with deadly accuracy over long distances. In one campaign, Jebe rode ahead of the main force alone, provoking the enemy into pursuit. As they chased, he twisted his body backward and fired over his horse's tail, killing attackers without slowing down. He led them directly into a hidden Mongol ambush. The trap closed instantly. Jebe played a key role in campaigns that destroyed entire armies across Central Asia. From the man who once wounded Genghis Khan, he became one of the deadliest weapons in his empire. Shaka Zulu, born around 1787 in what is now KwaZulu-Natal, Shaka grew up in a harsh tribal environment where survival depended on strength and discipline. Tall, lean, and physically imposing, he quickly proved himself not just as a warrior, but as a leader who understood how battles were truly won. Shaka rejected traditional methods. He replaced the long throwing spear with the iklwa, a short stabbing weapon designed for close-range combat. Faster, more direct, and far more lethal once engaged. He paired it with a large cowhide shield used not just for defense, but to control and expose his opponent's body. His greatest innovation was tactical. Shaka developed the bullhorn formation. The center force pinned the enemy in place, locking them into combat. Moving units swept around both flanks, closing in from the sides until the enemy was completely surrounded. There was no escape. He trained his warriors relentlessly, They marched barefoot over rough terrain to harden their feet, ran extreme distances daily, and fought in tight formations to build discipline and coordination. Weakness was eliminated, only efficiency remained. Under his command, the Zulu transformed from a small tribe into a dominant military power, conquering and absorbing dozens of neighboring groups. Shaka didn't just fight wars, he redesigned how they were fought and made his army unstoppable. Egil Skallagrímsson, born around 910 in Iceland, Egil came from a family known for uncontrollable rage and violent instincts. From an early age, he showed the same traits. At just 7 years old, after being humiliated during a game, he left, returned with an axe, and killed the boy in front of others. It wasn't a moment of impulse. It was calculated. By his early teens, he was already feared. In one encounter, 2 grown men insulted him inside a hall. Egil didn't hesitate. He attacked both and killed them in a confined space using speed and aggression before either could react properly. As an adult, he fought as a berserker. When the rage took over, he charged first, ignoring defense and overwhelming opponents with raw force. He used a heavy axe to break shields and collapse resistance in a single strike. One of his most famous fights came during a night attack. A group of armed men entered his hall to kill him. Egil reacted instantly. He killed the first attacker, dragged the body to block the entrance, and forced the rest into a narrow choke point. They came in one by one. He cut them down one at a time until none remained. Egil didn't rely on formation or tactics. He turned chaos into control and walked out alone. William Marshal, born in 1147 in England, William Marshal grew up with no inheritance and no clear path to power. What he had was skill. From a young age, he trained in mounted combat, mastering control of both horse and weapon in high-speed engagements. Tournaments became his proving ground, where knights fought for prestige, ransom, and survival. Marshal didn't just compete, he dominated. He defeated hundreds of opponents across Europe, using timing, positioning, and control rather than brute force. He understood momentum, when to strike, when to hold, and how to break an opponent's balance at full speed. But tournaments were only part of his legacy. In real warfare, Marshal carried the same precision. During campaigns in France and England, he led cavalry charges that shattered enemy lines. At the Battle of Lincoln in 1217, despite his age, he commanded forces that overwhelmed a rebellious army. His movements were calculated, his formations controlled, and his attacks decisive. He wasn't reckless, he was exact. Over his lifetime, Marshal served multiple kings, surviving political shifts and constant warfare without losing his reputation or his edge. He died undefeated in battle. In an era defined by knights, William Marshal became the standard they were measured against. Khalid ibn al-Walid, born around 592 in Mecca, Khalid ibn al-Walid grew up in a warrior society where cavalry skill and battlefield awareness defined status. From early on, he showed exceptional control in mounted combat, understanding speed, timing, and how to exploit openings in enemy formations. He first proved this at the Battle of Uhud, leading a cavalry maneuver that struck from the flank and turned the tide of the fight. It wasn't brute force. It was positioning and perfect timing. Later, he changed sides. After joining the Muslim forces, Khalid became their most effective field commander. He specialized in rapid movement and unpredictability, using fast cavalry units to outmaneuver larger armies. He didn't fight battles head-on unless necessary. He broke them from the sides. In one campaign, he led his army across a vast desert, choosing a route the enemy believed impossible. When he appeared, it was from a direction no one was defending. Battle after battle, he adapted in real time. If a line broke, he reformed it. If pressure increased, he shifted units instantly. He maintained control even when outnumbered. Khalid is credited with over 100 victories without a single defeat. His title, Sword of God, wasn't symbolic. It described exactly how he fought: fast, precise, and unstoppable. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See what's next.